Did you really, Mr. Klausner? She decided she would make a dash for the house in about 5 seconds. You might say, he went on, that a rose bush has no nervous system to feel with, no throat to cry with. You'd be right, it hasn't. Not like yours, not like ours anyway, but how do you know? Mrs. Saunders, and here he leaned far over the fence and spoke in a fierce whisper. How do you know that a rosebush doesn't feel as much pain when someone cuts its stem in two as you would feel if someone cut your wrist off with a garden shears? How do you know that it's alive, isn't it?
Okay, stop. So, good morning, students. Today we have to start from page 107, first paragraph, that is, did you really, Mr. Clausen? So, now, as you remember, Mrs. Saunders, she was surprised, right? She didn't have a very good opinion about Klausner already. She thought him to be a weird, strange man. And the way he was talking today, that he heard the cry of roses when they were being chopped off by her from the stem, that made her believe that he is not a normal man, even stronger, right? So she decided to make a dash for the house in about 5 minutes. So she decided that in another 5 minutes, because the things which Mr. Klausner was talking were too weird for her, were too strange for her, that roses also cry in pain when you cut them from the plant, right? So that was something very strange for her. And she was very sure now that Klausner has lost his mind. So she thought that she should better make a dash, means to run very quickly, right? So that she is going to run quickly inside the house in another 5 seconds. But this person, that is Klausner, he was not ready to stop, right? He was still going on, telling her about the sound produced by the plant. So he said that you might say, he went on, that a rose bush has no nervous system to feel with, no throat to cry with. You would be right, it hasn't. So she said that, yes, you are very right that the rose doesn't have a nervous system like us, like rose bush will not have a nervous system to feel anything, to feel any pain like us. It doesn't have a throat, right, to cry with like us. And you'd be right, it hasn't. Not like ours anymore. But how do you know, Mrs. Saunders? And here he leaned. And then he was like, he was leaning on the fence, trying to convince Mrs. Saunders, right? The thing which he has heard, the sounds which he has heard, he had a very firm belief that all those things were true. Really, the plants made some sound and he had heard them. So he was trying to make Mrs. Saunders believe whatever he heard. So he said that it's quite possible that the plants and the trees, they don't have a nervous system like us. But how do you know, Mrs. Saunders? So he like insisted on his point. And here he leaned far over the fence and spoke in a fierce whisper. So he was speaking in a fierce whisper, like, how do you know, Mrs. Saunders? How do you know that a rose bush doesn't feel as much pain when someone cuts its stem? So he said that, how do you know? How can you be so sure that the bush doesn't feel pain? Nobody can be sure of it. Maybe it was crying in a frequency which was not audible to the human ear. And you would feel if someone cut your wrist. So maybe the rose felt the same pain as we humans will feel when our wrists are cut by garden shears. Garden shears are there are type of scissors used for cutting plants, like pruning plants. How do you know that? It's alive, isn't it? We all know that plants are alive. So when you know that it is alive, how can you be so sure that it doesn't feel the pain and it doesn't have the nervous system? It might have the nervous system, which will be quite, it is quite possible that it is very different from our nervous system. Ananya, you see. From yes, Mr. Klausner.
Yes, Mr. Klausner. Oh yes, and good night.
Okay, so wait. So she's like, she just wanted to get rid of this fellow as soon as possible. She had already made up her mind that she will dash inside the house in no time. And so she just replied, yes, Mr. Klausner, yes, yes, you are right. And then she just wished him good night and rushed inside the house.
Quickly she turned and ran up the garden to her house. Klausner went back to the table. He put on the earphones and stood for a while listening. He could still hear the faint crackling sound and humming noise of the machine, but nothing more. He bent down and took hold of a small white daisy growing on the lawn. He took it between thumb and forefinger and slowly pulled it upward and sideways until the stem broke.
So this is what he did, right? He just went back when Mrs. Saunders, she left. So he went back to the table, to the place where his machine was kept, again put on his earphone, but he was not able to hear any more sound except the crackling and the humming sound made by the machine. So then next he bent down, there was a daisy growing, and then he just twisted the daisy which was growing on in the lawn, and then pulled it upward sideways, and then he plucked the daisy from the plant. So what happened next? Bhumi, please read.
From the moment that he started pulling to the moment when the stem broke, he distinctly heard in the earphone a faint, high-pitched cry, curiously inanimate.
Inanimate means
He took
without
another
life, right? Lifeless. It was earlier also he heard some metallic kind of sound, right? Inanimate sound, which was normally not produced by living creatures. So from the moment he started pulling, right? So he was like turning the daisy. Right? He just held it between his thumb and forefingers like this, and then slowly he pulled it upward, sideways. So when these movements were being made, right? What happened? He was able to hear strange sounds from that very moment. He distinctly heard in his earphone a faint, high-pitched cry, curiously inanimate. So till the time the daisy was plucked from the plant, right? He heard some strange sounds. Till the time the stem broke, he heard some strange sound, which were lifeless, right? Like not made by any living creature. Continue.
He took another daisy and did it again. Once more, he heard the cry, but he wasn't so sure now that it expressed pain. No, it wasn't pain. It was surprise. Or was it? It didn't really express any of the feelings or emotions known to a human being.
Okay, stop. So now because of the sound which he heard this kind of sound for the first time. It was an inanimate metallic sound, right? So anything with which you are not acquainted, you will not be able to know what emotion that particular sound is conveying. So this sound which he heard for the first time. So he was not sure what was the emotion which was being conveyed. It was an inanimate sound. He was not able to clearly make out that whether whether the plant is making this sound in pain, or it is a surprise, or what it is. What emotion is that sound trying to express? That was not clear to him. So he wasn't sure now that it expressed pain. Right. So now after thinking on this point more, he came to the conclusion that how can he be sure that it expressed pain? He had his doubts now, that whether the sound was expressing pain or some other emotion. No, it wasn't pain, it was a surprise. So then he thought that it might be surprise also. How can he be so sure that it was the cry of pain when he has never heard this kind of sound in the past? Or was it? And then this is the confusion which is going inside his inside his mind, that whether the sound is of pain or it is of surprise, or perhaps any other emotion is being expressed by the plant, because these were the sounds from forbidden territory, right? They have human ears have never heard these kind of sound, and Klausner was listening to those sounds for the first time in his life. So that is why there was confusion in his mind, regarding the sound, regarding the emotion which was being expressed by that sound. Continue. So because it didn't express any of the feelings or emotions known to the human being, right? So he was not sure. It was just a cry, a neutral, stony cry, a single emotionless note expressing nothing, right? So he came to the conclusion that it was just a stony cry, a stony, inanimate cry with emotionless, feelingless. There was no emotion, no feeling being expressed in that cry, in that shriek which he heard.
It had been the same with the roses. He had been wrong in calling it a cry of pain. A flower probably didn't feel pain. It felt something else which we didn't know about, something called twine or spurn or reenactment or anything you like.
Okay. So these are the names he gives, right? He says that it can be, it was the same with the roses. He heard a similar sound when the roses were being plucked by Mrs. Saunders, right? So he said that he was wrong in calling it a cry of pain because he cannot be sure of it. The flower probably didn't feel pain. It is quite possible the flower didn't felt any pain. Rather, it was surprised on being separated from the plant. It felt something else. So he came to the conclusion that it might be feeling something else also. It's quite possible, which we didn't know. And because human ears are not acquainted with that sound, so he cannot be sure of the feeling or the emotion which is being expressed by that sound. Something called, and then he gives these strange words, right? So because there is no meaning of these words like toin, pearl, and penultimate. So he says it might be called something like toin, pearl, penultimate. So these are the strange words. We don't know the meaning of these words. We don't know the sound which was being produced by the plant. So it can be called, so that is why he says that it can be called something else, like toins, pearl, penultimate, which we don't know. We don't know this word, we don't know the sound, so there can be some strange names of these sounds, right? So which we are unaware of. So these words are just used to tell the reader, to express to the reader that he was not aware of the meaning of those sounds. He doesn't know those sounds. Like he doesn't know the meaning of these words.
He stood up and removed the earphone.
Wait. Now let someone else read. Priya, please read.
He stood up and removed the earphones. It was getting dark, and he could see pricks of light shining in the windows of the houses all around him.
So pricks of light
Carefully,
means there were lights, like people had switched on their lights of their houses because it was getting dark. So light was visible to him from the windows of the houses.
carefully he picked up the black box from the table, carried it into the
Shed, the place
Shed
where the box was kept, right? Where he was doing all his experiment, where he made that box the place.
and put it on the workbench. Then he went out and locked the door behind him and walked up to the house.
So
The next morning,
the work was over for him as far as that day was concerned. So now he decided to lock the door. He kept the box safely inside the shed, and then he walked into his house. You remember that shed was far away, like in one corner of the garden, right? Far away from the house.
the next morning, Klausner was up as soon as it was light. He dressed and went straight to the shed. He picked up the machine and carried it outside. Clasping it to his chest with both hands, walking unsteadily under
Walking
its weight.
unsteadily means he was not able to walk properly because the machine was heavy, right? So he was not able to walk properly. So when you walk in a very shaky, wobbly manner, so that is walking unsteadily under its weight. So the next morning, Klausner got up quickly, right? He dressed himself and went straight to the shed because he wanted to do some more experiments with this machine which he has made. So he picked up the machine and brought it outside, holding it tightly to his chest with both hands and walking unsteadily. Means he was not able to walk properly because of the weight of the machine. Let someone else read here. Shanit, please read. Shanit.
I have to read from there, he paused.
From here. He went past the house.
There he paused and looked around him. Then he went on until he came to a large tree, a beech tree, and he placed the machine on the ground close to the trunk of the tree. Quickly, he went back to the house and got an axe from the coal cellar and carried it across the road into the park. He put the axe on the ground beside the tree.
Okay. So now, where was he going? He went past the house, out to the front gate, across the road to the park. So he took the machine, he carried the machine to the park, which was near his house. There he paused and looked around because it was early morning, so there was nobody else to be seen except himself, right? So he looked around, stopped there for some time, looked around here and there, and then he came to a large tree, a peach tree. Peach tree is a type of a tree. And he placed the machine on the ground close to the front of it. And then he kept the machine on the ground. Can you guess now what he's planning to do? He's planning to cut the tree, right? So he kept the machine on the ground close to the trunk of the tree. Quickly he went back to the house and got an axe. Then he rushed to his house and fetched an axe from the coal cellar, right? Cellar means a storehouse, right? Normally an underground room where you store things. So where the coal was stored in his house, so he took the axe from there and carried it across the road into the park. He put the axe on the ground beside the tree. So then he kept the axe also beside the tree. The machine was already there. So now his plans were to cut the tree. Kritika, please read.
He looked around him again, peering nervously through his thick glasses in every direction. There was no one about. It was 6 in the morning. He put the earphones on his head and switched on the machine. He listened for a moment to the faint, similar humming sound. Then he picked up the axe, took a stance with his legs wide apart, and swung the axe as hard as he could at the base of the tree trunk. The blade cut deep into the wood and stuck there. And at the instant of impact, he heard a most extraordinary voice in the earphones. It was a new noise, unlike any he had heard before. A harsh, noteless, enormous noise, a growling, low-pitched, screaming sound, not quick and short like the noise of the roses, but drawn out like a sob, lasting for fully a minute, loudest at the moment when the axe struck, fading gradually fainter and fainter until it was gone.
Okay. So then he looked around him, peering nervously through the thick glasses in every direction. Peering nervously. So peering means to look something very carefully, right? Very intently. So that then he looked here and there, and he was nervous also because again there was anxiety inside him because another experiment he's trying to do with his machine. So there was no one about. So nobody was to be seen because it was 6 in the morning. Who will be out at 6 in the morning? So he was alone. So he put on his earphones, switched on the machine, and then the same humming sound of the machine, which was produced by the machine, he heard. Then he picked up his axe, took a stance. Took a stance means you take a position, right? When you try to hit something hard, you have to take a position. So he took the position, his legs were wide apart, and swung the axe with full force in the air, and he hit the tree, the trunk of the tree, with all his might, right? With all his strength. The blade cut deep into the wood and stuck there. So what happens when you hit a tree with full force using an axe? The blade of your axe will fix, right? So then you have to twist it a little and pull it out. So the blade cut deep. So the same thing happened. The blade cut deep into the wood and stuck there. So the blade was stuck there, and at the instant of the impact, he heard the most. And when the blade of the axe hit the tree, at that very moment, he heard a very extraordinary, strange sound, which he has never heard in the past. It was a new noise, unlike any he had heard before. So the sound which he heard was new to him. And then what type of the sound it was has been described in this in these lines. A harsh, noteless, enormous sound. Enormous sound means huge sound, right? So a growling, high-pitched, screaming sound, not quick and short, like the noise of the roses. See, no, roses were small, right? So they made short sound, but this noise, it extended for a period of time, or drawn like a sob. Like when you sob, the sound is heard for a longer period of time. So it was like a long sob which he heard, lasting for fully a minute. The sound continued for 1 minute, loudest at the moment, and the sound was the loudest when the axe was struck at the on the trunk of the tree, and then it slowly fainted and then died out. Klausner stared in horror at the place where the blade of the axe had sunk into the wood flesh of the tree. So wood flesh means the trunk of the tree, the flesh of the tree inside the outer wood, right? So he was standing there and he was staring the tree with horror, right? Then gently he took the axe handle, worked the blade loose, and threw the thing on the ground. Now he was very much scared, shocked, surprised, right? Because now he was sure that the tree was in pain, because it was like a drawn long sob which he heard. So he took the axe handle, then he held the axe handle in his hand and then tried to loosen it from the tree and then took it out. And then he threw the axe on the ground. With his fingers, he touched the gash. Gash means the cut, right? So then he touched the cut which was made by the axe on the tree, right? So he touched the gash that the axe had made in the wood, touching the edges of the gash, trying to press them together to close them. So he tried to press, because now the cut was made. So he tried to bring both the edges of the cut together and close that wound of the tree. And he kept saying, tree, oh tree, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but it will heal, fine. So this is what he went on seeing, because he was shocked when he heard the sound. And he thought that the sound was a saw, and it caused tremendous amount of pain to the tree. So he started apologizing to the tree. He tried to close the wound which was made in the tree, right? And he went on saying that tree, please, I'm sorry that I hurt you. It will close, it will heal, you will be fine, you will be okay. This is what he was saying to the tree. See, now he was mentally in some other world, because he started feeling that the trees and the plants, they feel the pain. So he thought that they might also listen to him. He was considering trees and plants to be very much like humans. So he thought that the tree is in great pain, and so he started consoling the tree by saying, tree, oh tree, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but it will heal. It will heal. Fine. Who will read? Who has not read? Ashutosh, read.
For a while he stood there with his hands upon the trunk of the great tree. Then suddenly he turned away and hurried off out of the park, across the road, through the front gate and back into his house. He went to the telephone, consulted the book, dialed a number, and waited. He held the receiver tightly in his left hand and tapped the table impatiently with his right. He heard the telephone buzzing at the other end, and then the click of a lifted receiver and a man's voice, a sleepy voice saying, "Hello, yes."
Okay. So he stood there holding the trunk of the tree for some time, and then he rushed back to his house, right? Entered his house, took a book which was kept next to the telephone. See, here the telephones were not the telephones of today, right? They had a dial, and every time you were supposed to rotate that dial to dial each number, which it had certain holes. So you were supposed to, I don't know how many of you have seen that telephone. So you were supposed to put your finger in each hole and then rotate it. So he went to the telephone, consulted the book, dialed the number and waited. So he dialed, whom do you think he dialed? It's mentioned, it's Dr. Scott, right? He dialed Dr. Scott's number and waited for him to pick up the phone. He held the receiver tightly. See, this is another symptom. The table impatiently with his right. So he was very impatient, restless at that moment, right? Because the way he was holding this receiver, he was holding the receiver very tightly. He wanted to share what happened with Mr. Scott because Dr. Scott was the only person who knew the details of his experiment, right? And then maybe he wanted some other favor from Dr. Scott, which we'll come to later on. So the telephone rang, and then at the other end, he heard a man's voice, and it was the voice of Dr. Scott. And then he said, hello. Obviously, the man must be sleeping in the early morning. Avishi, please read.
Dr. Scott, he said. Yes, speaking. Dr. Scott, you must come quickly, please. Who is it speaking? Clowns are here. And you remember what I told you last night about my experience with sound and how I hoped I might? Yes, of course. But what's the matter? Are you ill? No, I'm not ill, but
just a second.
it's
See, in early morning at 6 o'clock, who will be interested in listening to your experiment, right? And when the person is sleeping. So Klausner said, Dr. Scott picked up the phone, and then he said, who's speaking? See, those were the days when the numbers were not flashed, right? So you were supposed to speak out about your identity, right? So Klausner said that you remember that I told you about my experiment with sound, right? And my sound machine and all these things I told you in the evening yesterday. So he said, yes, but now in the early morning, why are you talking about your experiment and your sound machine? Are you ill? Why will anyone call a doctor in the early morning? Only when the person is ill. So that was a very obvious question asked by Dr. Scott. And he said that, are you not well? Are you ill? So Klausner replied, no, I'm not ill, but. So the doctor thought it to be very strange, and he said, it's 6:30 in the morning and you call me, but you are not ill, right? So why will anyone call a doctor in the early morning when he is not ill? Read him.
please come quickly. I want someone to hear it. It's driving me mad. I can't believe it.
Yes, so he
Doctor
asked the
heard the
doctor to come immediately because he wanted to talk to someone about his experiment, about his experience with these strange sounds, which were produced by the trees and the plants, right? So, because he was going mad with several thoughts coming into his mind, right? So he said that I cannot believe it. Please come. I need to talk to you. I want you to hear my story. I want you to hear my experience. So continue.
The doctor heard the frantic, almost hysterical note in the man's
Frantic means, what is
voice.
the meaning of frantic? Frantic is when the person is not able to control his emotions. So he was like not able to control his emotions and his feelings, the way he was talking to the doctor. And the doctor understood this fact, right? So almost hysterical. Hysterical also means that a state of uncontrolled emotion, right? When you have start having fits and you are completely out of control.
The same note he used to hearing in the voices of people who called up and said, "There has been an accident. Come quickly," he said slowly. "You really want me to go get out of bed and come over now?"
Yes. So he
"Yes,
again
now,
confirmed.
at once, please."
So
"All right then, I'll come."
so he confirms that you really want me to come out there at this time in the early morning at 6:30. So because of the way he was talking, like that frantic, hysterical manner in which Klausner was talking to the doctor, right? So the doctor thought that he should better go. This convinced the doctor to be there because his tone was very similar to the people who tell him about an accident, right? Whenever there is an accident and he is called, so he was speaking in a similar tone. He just wanted the doctor to be there as soon as possible.
Klausner sat down beside the
Wait,
telephone
Avishi,
and
let someone
waited.
else read. Anusha, please read.
Excuse me. I want to say something.
Anusha.
Mom, I want to say something. I'm recording this on.